It's a pretty powerful thing you say that as a child, when you were shepherded into these movies, that the heroes of the civil rights movement struck you as ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if you include King in that list or not at the time.
I did at the time.
But how do you think about them now?
I think of them as supremely heroic now. I think of them as incredibly heroic. I think of them as having access to a kind of morality that I don't. And I think a lot of that is because I don't have a rooting in the church. And so even the logic of it, I can't. I think, like for instance, I think a lot of it is rooted in the belief in the afterlife, which I don't share. I think a lot of it is rooted in the notion of a supreme God of justice, and law and morality, which I don't particularly share. But I think in spite of that, you can't watch the End of the Selma campaign and see Dr. King, give that how long, not long speech and not be terribly, terribly moved. You can't watch the last speech he gave, before he would die the next day, where he is sick and so tired and literally falling away from the microphone. This is the mountaintop speech, and not be terribly, terribly moved. These are people who willingly, day in and day out, gave of their bodies. Put their lives, which is, to my mind, all you have. Put their lives on the line, for a world that they would not necessarily see. At the same time, I think, whereas the broader country feels celebratory about that, you want to talk about rage, I feel incredible anger at that. Because in my mind, it never should have had to happen. When I see, President Obama, and this is not like President Obama, so it's not, anything personal about him, but when I see the president, going to Selma, and commemorating Bloody Sunday, it bothers me because I feel like had the president, had the government been doing its job at that time, Bloody Sunday would never have been necessary. It never should have happened in the first place. Martin Luther King was killed. And the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Housing Act, those things don't make it okay that he was killed, for me. I don't feel that his death is redeemed by those things. And so it is not even so much the sacrifice, it is not even so much the ethic of nonviolence, which I get. It's not even so much the tactic of nonviolence, which I get now. But it is the celebration of it by people who don't necessarily even embrace those values themselves. And, I find that bothersome.